All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for coming out. It's a blessing to see so many faces in here, some familiar, some new. We're here to talk about a lot of different things. It's like, what do you do first? What I think I'll do first, because this is how I center myself best. I'll read you something from my book, Dear Continuum. The book came out 2 weeks ago, basically, and thank you, thank you. And the story of the book is an interesting one, which I will share with you because I think that will help to, you know, encapsulate some of what we're talking about when it comes to silencing or attempting to silence Black writers. Because, people try to silence us, but we know better, right? It just doesn't happen. And so I'm going to share this piece with you, which was the first piece that I wrote. And so Dear Continuum is a series of letters, 19 letters and 2 essays to young people. When I say young, I want young writers. I do not mean age-wise, okay? I mean emerging writers, people who are just starting to get to their voices, okay? And so these are things that I wish that somebody had said to me when I started sharing my work 20 years ago, right? Some of these things are those things. Dear Continuum, I got an issue of Poets and Writers in the mail yesterday. I enjoyed what I read, but it was not inspiring at all. It was realistic. It was honest about the uphill battle it is to get a book seen. I know the work of this all too well, but this letter is not about books. This is about voice and the love and armor you will need to have yours heard. When I think about being a writer in 2015, being a writer with a Black woman's voice, as Lucille Clifton said, I am a Black woman poet, and I sound like one. With no agent, no powerful mentor opening doors, no financial support, no salary, no benefits, then I realized that this really is a crazy path. Deciding to be a writer was beautiful. Writing is beautiful. Deciding that my concerns, hopes, dreams, and voice are valid and committing myself to putting my visions on paper has been a deeply healing experience. This work connects me to people I have never set eyes on. However, being a writer in a country that does not support art and writing from the heart of my Black woman mama mouth is a struggle that sometimes leaves me speechless. But the point is to exhaust me and us beyond words, isn't it? So I rest up and speak on. Beloved, this landscape is actually more treacherous now than when I started 20 years ago. And I don't say this to discourage you. I say this because you need to know that you are embarking on the path of most resistance. And if you plan to walk it, you need to study and you need to endure. Listen, there's all sorts of color in academic conferences and departments now. Much of that writing is non-threatening and status quo. It's the type of work that could have come from 18th century nowhere. It's work that no one in our communities or families could wrap around cold shoulders or grasp onto in desperate moments or even nod at in faint recognition. That, we are constantly being told, is poetry. That exsanguinated verse. But you and I both know that poetry can be soulful, grounded, gravity-defying, and irrepressible. If your poems walk picket lines, work in soup kitchens, gather dandelion leaves, sweat, jump, rope, wear stilettos, shout, give birth, or watch the phases of the moon, or know that it is appropriate to put flowers in the ocean on New Year's Eve and pour liquor on the earth before anyone living takes a sip, then supposedly they are not poems. Supposedly you missed the memo on craft, and your poems will be returned to sender. Save your postage. Honor your time. Tap your Cimarron blood. Tap the defiant DNA that gives your hair such good posture. Find a community of poets dedicated to writing and walking and being liberation. Study Hughes and Baldwin, Walker, Houston, Shangay, Baraka, Hayden, Dumas, Bandelli, Johnson, Germain, Moore, Rux, Hamad, Clifton, Rich, Boyce, Taylor, Medina, Marabuti, Brooks, Forche, Yasalam, Rojas, Rivera, Knight, Esteves, Caliba, Simmons, Kaufman, Sanchez, Finney, Best, Espada, and Perdermo. This is your work, and there are so many more to study, and you will find them as you make your way. Read, write, edit, find a way. Let the poems find their way. Get those words read and heard, and find somebody unbought to publish your stuff. Be really brave and publish the work yourself. But don't stop there. Publish the poets around you who stand on the front lines and refuse to bow down. Publish those mamas bringing their babies to readings, and those poets whose works are in anthologies that they read while they stand in the food stamp office. Those lettered poets who cannot make the rent. Those poets with a day job who organize free workshops and salons. Those poets who never lose their accents. The ones cast off in a spoken word ghetto because they actually dare to connect with an audience. Publish all of them, who are all of us, who fight this fight, because we are determined to keep the doors open for the next generation, and because we would go crazy without our tongues, without our pens braiding the strands of our thoughts into some type of beauty, not pressing our voices flat to the white, rageless whisper, not doing that and paying a heavy price. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. So this book is 19 letters of trying to explain to a younger poet. Keep in mind, I'm going to use the word emerging from now on, okay? To an emerging poet, an emerging writer, what it means and how exactly you do this, right? Because those of us who are babies of the Black arts movement, right? Like, it's a privilege to be standing up here and look in the faces of all these people who paved the way for me to do the work. And there's a whole, right, there's a generation of us, right? And so we get our inspiration from them, right? Like, I look out, I see my friends Jackie, I see Keisha, I see people who have continued this, this movement, have attempted to continue this movement, right? And so I think what I'll tell you now is about this book and how it came to be. This book came to be because a student asked me to write it. Okay, this book was not something that I was planning to do. I read that first letter. I wrote 2 more letters. This is the abbreviated version. And a young woman asked me, well, are you going to write more letters and create a book? And I said, all right, well, if that's what's needed, then I'll write a book of these letters, right? So it took 2.5 years. Of course, the question becomes, well, who the hell is going to publish this, right? Because in all seriousness, I mean, the things that are being said here, like you all said, there are Black folks who don't want to hear this, right? And there are people in the white literary establishment who don't want to hear this. So what do you do? And so I thought for a minute, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to shop the manuscript. You know how people shop manuscripts, right? I mean, that doesn't even sound right, but that's what we do, right? We shop the manuscript, right? And so, right, that's what we do. And so I said, there are 2 publishers that I know who are my age, right, or younger, who represent Continuum. And I went to them. So that would be Jessica Care Moore, who has More Black Press, and my friend Bonafide Rojas, who had Grand Concourse Press. Now, Bonafide had never published anybody but himself, right? He's in the Bronx, but I'm like, yo, Bonafide, this is our generation. Let's publish this. Let's do this Black arts movement style. You know what I'm saying? Bonafide is somebody who loves Luis Reyes Rivera. I'm somebody who loves Amiri Baraka and Jay Cortez and all these people. So we're like, let's do this, okay? Here's the problem. We had no money. Okay? We wanted to do this, but we had no money. And so we're just like, well, we're going to get it done anyway. All right? We're just going to do it. And so we went forward like we had the money. Okay? People were publishing the letters. Like, I did send letters out to try to get them published. That is part of our work, right? And so I would send letters out and they would get published. How am I doing? What? 1 minute. Okay. 1 minute. How do I wrap this up? All right. So I sent out the letters. Letters were published, and I got to share this work at a retreat called The Watering Hole. The Watering Hole is another beautiful thing run by younger poets, right? And it's in South Carolina. We were in the swamps of South Carolina conducting writing workshops. So I read from the work, and I just happened to say, hey, this is a real space. And I said, we don't have any money for this. I'm finding typos in the manuscript. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to get it to you. And a brother came to me who's the poet laureate of Kentucky and said, if you need money, I got you. This is how we create space where we're not silenced anymore, okay? Through community. And community edited this book. Community copy wrote this book. Community did the cover, okay? And so there are ways for us to not be silenced, right? We just have to be more radical about our stuff. Much love.